Good morning, everyone. Hope everybody is all good. Right, so a day of eating video, or full day of eating. We are basically 2 weeks into this diet phase, pre-prep phase, or mini cut phase, whatever you want to call it, which I'll explain now. But I've had a few requests for this video. Everybody loves these day of eating videos. I think it's nice for you all to see again. What do I eat on a diet phase? But there's definitely a big difference from mainly in total calories allowances for the day from a building phase to where I am now. And I want to show you a couple of meals, how I go about things. Obviously, lean protein sources, just keeping me protein high enough where it needs to be, but then keeping calories in check, because that's a big bottleneck for a lot of people. So I'm going to show you how I organise my meals, the types of foods that I'm eating, some tips and tricks along the way for improving your satiety signal on the way down, which again is very important. But yeah, where we're at right now, 2 weeks down of the diet, we're entering the third week now. I'm already down a couple of kilo. This phase is going to be about 10 weeks in length, and as I say, 8 weeks left, 2 weeks down, and this is a pre-prep phase. So the pre-prep phase, the big main purpose of this is to chunk the fat loss phases for stepping on stage next year. Is to chunk it down into two. So if I can take off 10 weeks worth of body fat now, it saves me having to do it all in one go as we get into March next year. So this pre-prep phase, it positions myself a little bit better, and then it still gives me 3 or 4 months to slowly build back out while still being at a better body composition. So then when the time March comes around next year, I don't have to take off 10 weeks worth of body fat now. I've already took care of that. Does that make sense? So this pre-prep phase now that I'm doing quite early doors it's just to position myself better. So let's get into it. I'm gonna get into some of the meals. Again, you'll be able to, this will help you all out. So let's get into it. So morning walk. Within the first hour of waking up, I'm always out getting steps in with the dog. I spoke about that in the last video. But I want to talk about the importance of daily steps, especially in the diet phase as well. Now, I use daily steps as it's a baseline energy expenditure metric. So through this diet phase, I'm going to be getting between 12,500 steps and 15,000 steps a day, in that range. That gives me a quantifiable energy expenditure and calories burned throughout the day. Now, that's the first thing. So it's going to help me eat a little bit more food and still be staying in a deficit. So the more food I can eat and still lose body fat, it's going to be a little bit more anabolic. It's going to sustain better training performance, higher likelihood of muscle retention, all of those stuff. So that's one of the big reasons for steps as well. Then the second big thing as well, when it comes to steps, is that steps are not gonna beat you down like excessive cardio might do. So let's say high intensity sprints and all this stuff, they're fantastic, but they're a little bit more invasive on the body than steps. Steps are just easy to get in. So again, you can get your 12.5, 15k steps. I get them in at multiple points throughout the day. I have a morning walk, an afternoon walk sometimes in the evening. I just get my steps in. So it just allows me to eat a little bit more food and still drop body fat and prioritise my actual lifting weights, because that's the priority, to hold on and protect the muscle tissue. So that's the reason. Right, so meal one, this is the classic, this is the staple. This hasn't changed. Now, plantains, 400 gram of plantains, 4 eggs, 50 gram of turkey ham, will be about 300 gram of papaya, which I'll cut up. And then that's the intra-workout sugar, which I'm going to get into in a minute. So first thing with a pre-workout meal on a diet phase, you want to prioritise and bias the majority of your carb intake for your day. A good 40 to 50% of your carb intake in that pre-workout window if you can. That's your fuel for your training. So for me, in this whole meal, including obviously the intra-workout drink, I'm eating around 350 grams of carbs on this diet phase, and around 200 of those are coming in this pre and intra-workout window. That is the fuel when I need it most. Now, my pre-workout meal, it hasn't changed from the peak of the off season to where we are now. Now, I've protected this pre-workout meal. That's been the priority number one meal. I've protected this at all costs, because I know I train well on this. This gives me the energy to perform. again, biasing the majority of my carbohydrates pre-training, that's when I'm going to need it. So I've protected this at all costs, and then you'll see the meals later on in the day, they're the ones that are going to change a lot more. So as I say, 400 gram plantain, 4 eggs, 50 gram turkey ham, enough protein to spike muscle protein synthesis, not too much fat that is going to slow down digestion, and obviously the plantains and the papaya for the carbs. Just to touch on very quickly into workout carbs, this is cane sugar. That's about 40 grams of cane sugar. I leave it in the fridge the night before so it dissolves, and I will put that into my water bottle. Again, as I say, look, it's just cane sugar. Literally, I'll sip on that while I'm training. So I've got my plantains, papaya, cane sugar. That's the majority of the carb sources now. So biasing some carbs into workout as well. Again, it's fuel when I need it most. So yeah, that's meal one. And then I'll get stuck in, and then we'll crack on with meal two soon. Right, so the gym is done. This is post-workout meal. So the big change with this one, if you remember from the off season, I had white rice. Now we're bringing in 300 gram of boiled white potato. Now we're going for boiled white potato. White potato in general it's a food that's high on the satiety index. It's going to keep me fuller for longer. Now obviously with me total calories and carb intake overall coming down, I've kept pre-workout the same. I tried to protect that at all costs, but now this is where we start to dig into creating a deficit. So again, getting rid of the white rice, which is very easily digestible. It's easy to eat a lot of that. So I want something that's going to keep me fuller for longer. So again, enter the boiled white potatoes. Now because they're boiled as well, they take on a lot of the water content. So again, higher on the satiety index because they're boiled instead of, let's say, roasted or air fried. So boiled white potato, game changer. The steak, it's a very lean cut of red meat. It's not like sirloin, which has got some fat on it. It's very lean. So 300 grams of lean steak, 300 gram boiled white potato, again 100 gram of tomato for again some fibre, and then the fruit in this meal is 125 gram of blueberries, again micronutrients, packs a punch, again and fibre, which I'm going to talk a little bit about later on with the next meal. So that's post-workout. Keep an eye out for meal 3. Right, so something else just to touch on before we get into meal 3. It's your fibre intake when you're dieting down, right? So people don't really tend to have this issue when you're in a building phase and food is quite high. You're naturally going to get enough fibre anyway, because again, you're well fed. When people start to drop food, what's pretty common, and I've had it in the past with clients, again, when they slip into these bad habits, is that when food comes down, fibre intake comes down. So then they struggle to go to the toilet, digestive issues start to creep up, and we all want to be able to go and have a shit properly, you know what I mean? You don't want to be, the last thing you want is being bunged up and all that stuff, you don't want that. That's what happens with people, because food gets low and fibre intake drops off. So what I'd always recommend here would be, if you take your diet per every 1,000 calories that you're having, you want at least, like a minimum, you want 10 grams of fibre per 1,000 calories. That's a minimum. I'd rather you be around 15 grams of fibre per 1,000 calories. So, let's say you've got a fella who's dieting on 2,000 calories. You want to make sure you're having around 30 grams of fibre a day. Now, that'll come from your vegetables, your fruits, again, as you see with what I'm showing you throughout the day of eating here, but whatever vegetables and fruits that digest well for you and have got some decent fibre in, keep them in your diet. Things, as I showed you, things like your papaya, I've had that in my breakfast, the plantains full of fibre, blueberries, tomato, I'm going to show you some of the other fruits and veggies that I eat, strawberries, if you like things like peppers, carrots, all this sort of stuff, some of your greens, if you like your broccoli, your cabbage, cauliflower, if that digests well for you, keep that in your diet for your fibre content as well. It's just going to help you, obviously, being able to go to the toilet a lot more. So, not just that, the other thing with your fruit and veggies as well, you're going to get your fibre. 2, it's going to keep you fuller for longer because, again, it's very low calorie per 100 gram. So, you've got your fibre, it's going to keep you fuller for longer, it's going to improve your satiety signalling. And then number 3, it's loaded with micronutrients. So when we're on lower food, you think about it, if we're on lower food, we want to make everything that we eat, we want to make it pack a punch. We want to make sure that everything is quite nutrient dense because you're on lower food, so you want to make everything pack a punch. So you can't go wrong with your fruits and veggies and making sure you're keeping them in decent quantities in your diet phase for a multitude of different reasons. So yeah, big tip. So let's get into meal 3. Right, so meal 3. This is one that can raise a couple of eyebrows because it's not the most like aesthetic or appealing, but it ticks all the boxes. So it's literally, right, 220 gram of shrimp, 200 gram of frozen strawberries. Now, that's it. Literally, this meal is close to maybe 250 calories. Now, this is where we're really starting to create the deficit and pull away from, you know, from my total calories. Now, why just shrimps on their own in a bowl, and then why frozen strawberries? And I'm not a weirdo, by the way. There's a reason for it. So, literally, shrimps. There's absolutely zero fat in this. This is just all protein. There's nothing else other than protein in this. Now, for 220 grams of shrimp, that nets me 40 gram of protein. It ticks the box, keeps me calories down. So again, we tick the box for stimulating muscle protein synthesis. No fat, no carbs, no nothing in that. Job done, right? So that's the protein source for this meal. Now the next thing, it's a very low carb meal. But again, 200 grams of frozen strawberries. First reason, again, tying in with the fibre, as I was talking about just previously to this little clip. 200 grams of strawberries is going to net me about 4 grams of fibre as well. So again, job done. Now, strawberries loaded with micronutrients, only 30 calories per 100 grams. So I can have 200 grams of those, and it's only 60 calories. Now, why frozen? This is a big one. Everyone thinks I'm a weirdo for doing this, and you know you get some side eyes from people when you think, he's eating frozen strawberries. Look, they're not totally frozen. I take them out of the freezer about 10 minutes before I eat them while I'm preparing the shrimps. So they're not totally frozen, but they are harder to eat. Now the reason for that, you take 200 grams of just fresh strawberries out the fridge versus the freezer. You can, when you're hungry, you can eat this same bowl. If that was not frozen, you could eat that same bowl within 90 seconds tops. You can just inhale them. You can literally just want them down, no problem. Now, because they're frozen, they take a little bit longer to eat. I have to chew through them. I'm not going to break my teeth. They're soft enough, but it improves your satiety signaling. It's all to allow me to send a signal to my brain and go, okay, it might take me 5 or 6 minutes to eat that bowl instead of 90 seconds. That makes a difference. Now, if you do that throughout the day with all of your things, all of your foods that increase your satiety signaling, you make your brain happy. It's these little small tips and tricks that get you through a diet phase. So, as I say, very simple meal. 220 grams of shrimp, 200 grams frozen strawberries. I'll have these again later on today with meal 4, but that's why I have them frozen, and I've done that for years on these diet phases, and it's an absolute game changer. Because you know, when you drag an ass towards the end of a diet, or it's late at night and you've got maybe 60 calories to spare, 200 grams a bowl of those come in an absolute game changer for you. So, yep, that's meal 3. One more meal to go later on. Just out on evening walk, getting some of my final steps in, and just before we get into the last meal, I want to touch on basically, let's say, organisation around your food. Knowing exactly what you're going to eat on a day to day. Don't be waking up on a diet phase and you're leaving things to chance. Like, you don't know what you're going to eat for the day. You don't know what's going to make up your macros, your calorie targets. The most successful clients and the people who really do well at this stuff, they've got probably 90% of everything like planned out. They know what they're going to eat. They leave less up to chance. What gets planned and organised, you've got a target to hit, and you know what meals are going to hit that for you. So I wouldn't be waking up and, you know, it's a scramble to try and get your meals to hit these macros targets that you want. Like, just have a selection of, you know, let's say 4 to 6 meals that you like to eat that will fit your macro structure. You know, keep your protein high where it needs to be, keep your fat content in check, carbs around your training. Just having your meals that work for you, digest well for you, easy to make, easily portable, whatever you need for you in your lifestyle, and just stick with it. Like, just keep it nice and simple. Again, it's such a big tip for people. I eat the same thing every day on these diet phases. my foods don't change. Slight quantities maybe on a training day to a rest day. You know, I might eat a little bit more carbs on a training day, a little bit less. Like, you know, maybe some less potatoes or less plantains, as an example, on a rest day. That's it. But everything else is it just stays the same. And as I say, it's always worked very well for me. Just keeping things consistent, simple, and it's just going to set you up for more success on your diet phase. So again, organisation, absolute game changer for you. Right, so meal 4, final meal of the day. Now, a couple of things. First off, 400 gram of lean meat, so the same meat that I had after the gym for lunch. 400 gram of, it's like just a lean cut of red meat. Right now, with this, we've got a big load of salad, tomatoes, onions, lettuce. Again, very low calorie. Decent amount of fibre, bulks out the plate. So again, it makes me feel fuller for longer, higher on the satiety index. So that's the meat and the salad. The other game changer is these, they're called tacos or taquitos, whatever you want to call them. Now, each taco, around 12 gram of carbs. But the reason I've got them in here, because they're crunchy and they're a little bit harder to eat, they, again, going back to the frozen strawberry thing, they take longer to eat because of the texture of them, because they're quite crunchy, compared to maybe something like a flatbread, which you can eat that within 30 seconds. These take time to eat with the meat on top. So that's the main meal. And then obviously 200 grams of frozen strawberries on the side again. High on the satiety index, take longer to eat. So this meal, pre-bed, keeps me full, satiates me well, as I say, and it just ticks all the boxes for recovery to get ready for tomorrow. Good training day again. So that's a full day of eating on a diet. Let me know what you think. Obviously, any questions, let me know. I'll do another one of these in a few weeks as we get towards the end of the diet phase. But again, like the video down below, make sure you're subbed, and I'll speak to you in the next one.